Hey everybody, this is Erica from the Classy Climb blog, coming to you this morning with how to launch into the deep. It's a really good start to this morning. But before we start, take a look below for the Classy Climb School. Check out courses on how to start your business from scratch, how to hustle up more income, and how to design and live the American dream that you love and deserve. So we basically get to, when you have a lot of people coming out of college and you have a lot of people kind of having to try to take that next step in life, you're seeing what we call the boomerang kids, right? You know, 1/3 of every adult male, I think it's 25 to 34, lives at home. That's huge, right? Or I think it's 19 to 34, but it's a huge number. And then you see a lot of people, you know, you hear the stories: 80,000 in debt, 70,000 in debt, moved back home, all kind of stuff. And so what can change this trajectory, right? What can change this people not being able to start out on their lives? You know, there's a movie called Failure to Launch. There's all kind of good movies. And I think it's really easy. I'm going to use a Mitt Romney quote he did at school, but it's really from the Bible, where Jesus told them to take their nets back out after they had no fish and go out into the deep. And what Mitt Romney said is people have to launch into the deep. And in order to get what you want out of life, who told you the hustle was free? Who told you life was easy? It's a lie, right? In order to really have these young adults, honestly, that's what they are, live their lives and get married and have kids, is to launch them into the deep. When I moved to Austin, Texas, I'd be amazed at how many people had moved there and they had no car, or they had no money, or they just were straight out, like they were just going to get out there and do everything they can in their power to make a life for themselves. And those people fought and continued and stayed. There's some people who moved on to other cities, and a lot of people move back home. A lot of people, I visit home every year, about a month or two, you know, so lucky for me, right? Real estate, you can do that when you have your commissions lined up, right? So, but but for the first year or two I was out there, I was really like hustling. I was working extra jobs. I was driving Uber and Lyft, and I was doing all this stuff that I would never do if I stayed in North Carolina, because I know me and I come from a family, they all own businesses, and I would just do the comfortable thing. I would do what was comfortable for me. And that doesn't provide growth. You know, comfortable situations is like the death of growth. You see companies get comfortable, they become Circuit City. Plain and simple, they become Circuit City. So how do you launch into the deep? You really have to go out there and you have to get started. And I know people are going to say, but Erica, I'm saving money living at my parents' house. And I'll tell them this. I read stories all the time in Business Insider and Inc. magazine where people stayed at home for under a year and they completely paid off their college debt because they didn't go out with friends. They didn't go to the bar. They didn't have other events. Their mission was to pay off $20,000 in 10 months or a year. And they did it. Why? Because they were focused. Because they were ready to go. They were ready to launch into the deep. They were going, this will not hang over my head my whole life. And you've seen me make a ton of videos about college debt and how you have to really make a decision that is going to be paid off. And so when people say, Erica, I'm not giving up my lattes, I'm not giving up my lunch, I'm not giving up this, I'm not giving up that, what you're really saying is, I really don't have the desire or the really deep down purpose and focus to pay off these student loan debts in a short time period. Because it's not about the $5 latte. It's not about all these other things, because I meet people every day who work one job and they still live at home with their parents. And I go, why don't you just go get a second job? Why don't you go just pay this debt off faster? You've been here for 10 years. You've been here for 5 years. You've been in this same position for years. Does it not bother you? And when you really get to the grind of it, that's what happened. They've become numb, or they've become comfortable, and they don't want to launch into the deep. The deep is scaring them, right? When really the deep is your life. The deep is life. In some aspects, life can be long, and sometimes life can be short. Life can be short when you're fully loving others, when you're fully engaged, when you're traveling, when you're loving life, when you're eating new foods and speaking different languages, and you know, having a spouse and having these kids and then having grandkids. If you've lived a really full life, by the time you're 80, you're like, man, I wish I had a few more years to do more with them, a few more years to love and see them grow. But then you have the other people who are like, man, life's so long. It's been so long, because they haven't done what they wanted. They sat in a cubicle or worked a job they hated their whole life. You know, they've been a factory worker, or they've been some kind of like, you know, grocery store worker, or some kind of worker where they felt unappreciated, and they really don't feel they lived life to the fullest. And it's the saddest thing to hear regrets or hear people say they should have did something and they didn't. It's the worst. So listen, if you're listening to this today, I want you to decide, where's your deep at, right? Are you comfortable? You know, I'm not talking to the person who's got roommates and working extra jobs. You're hustling. You kind of have a ideal, your head's wrapped around it. But if you're a college person and you're thinking of going home first, do you have a plan for it? Because honestly, the best plan would be to take your stuff, take your car, and go to the next city. Because a lot of people say, well, I tried to find a job in my old city. You got a degree in engineering and there's no engineering jobs in your city. You knew you weren't going to go home with this degree, right? You knew this degree was going to take you somewhere else, so you have to go. Because if you don't go, you'll always regret it. If you don't go, you'll be at your parents' house for years from now. If you don't go, you never really challenge yourself. Like, you got this degree for what? For show? Like, you knew this meant changes. So this is Erica from the Classy Climb blog. Leave your comments below. What is your launching in the deep, right? What is your deep? You know, is it where you see yourself 5 years from now? Then how do you get there, right? So you guys have an awesome day.